Here's a little known fact. I'm not a fan of Matthew Broderick. It's okay. I don't think he's a fan of mine either. It has nothing to do with his movies or personal life. This dislike is based on something I personally witnessed on a Broadway stage several years ago. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because Matthew Broderick did something an amateur would do, and it's a mistake no professional performer or presenter can ever make, and I'll tell you about it.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Nope, I'm not crazy about Matthew Broderick. I loved him in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Who didn't? But some years ago, I was in the audience of a Broadway performance of the musical The Producers. He was performing one of the lead roles. Turns out that some knucklehead was taking pictures of the performance, a real no-no in the world of theater. Of course, neither I nor anyone else in the audience would have known if were not for what transpired next. In the middle of a scene, Matthew Broderick stopped his lines, looked out at the audience, and shouted this: "You're not allowed to take pictures during a performance." Then he said it again, and then he said it again. Each time he said it, he lost a little bit more of the character he was playing, and he became just Matthew Broderick. When his co-star brought in a beautiful ad-lib to attempt to keep the scene going, Matthew Broderick raised his voice at him as well, turned his back, and began pacing around the stage. Knowing how upset he was, the audience was crushed. Eventually, he regained his composure and somewhat recovered. Unfortunately, the audience never did. The fact is that an audience will excuse almost anything under any condition, despite whatever is happening that wasn't planned for. You have to convince that audience that this isn't bothering you. However, if you allow the audience to know that something is bothering you, you are breaking what's called the fourth wall. The fourth wall is the imaginary wall at the front of a stage in a traditional three-walled theater. The audience watches the play through the fourth wall. When you let an audience know that something's wrong, you risk jolting that audience out of whatever experience you've been creating. You'll leave them feeling distracted, sorry for you, and unable to once again immerse themselves in your message. That's a hole almost no one can dig themselves out of. Johnny Carson knew this all too well. As a kid, I remember laughing harder at the jokes that fell flat than the jokes that hit their mark. Why? Because when a joke fell flat, Johnny never seemed bothered in the least. If it didn't bother him, it didn't bother me. He'd smile, make another comment about the joke, and the audience would roar. Imagine what would have happened to that same audience if he reacted with the disappointment he must have felt inside. Watch a veteran presenter take a stage, and you'll see confidence in their eyes. You won't have to look too hard because it'll be right there in front of you. That confidence emotes from every step they take. They know almost anything can be forgiven as long as they don't make the audience feel sorry for them. Forget a key point of the presentation? If you decided not to be a slave to your notes and instead to be courageous enough by moving and engaging with the audience, it comes with the territory. Slide in a nice polished transition, go back, insert the key point. Draw a blank during the presentation? I've actually never seen a case of total amnesia befell a presenter. You still know your name and the topic you were speaking on. Slide in a nice question or two for the audience. Work your way back to your notes and find your place again. Experience a technical malfunction with your presentation aids? Who hasn't? That's what flip charts are for. Sometimes these PowerPoint presentations do more harm than good anyway. Just smile. Tell the audience that this gives you an opportunity to have a real conversation. Walk off that stage and right into the audience and keep on rolling. Notice the theme here? When you step in front of an audience and things aren't going exactly as planned, the only thing you really have to remember are these four words. Keep it to yourself. If it doesn't bother you, it won't bother your audience. Matthew Broderick's response to an inappropriate theater goer should have been to go on with the show. And the moment he stepped off stage between scenes, alert the stage manager. No doubt they would have had an usher quickly take care of the situation. Instead, he stopped the show and let the audience know exactly how upset he was. Don't get me wrong. I loathe audience members who do anything with their smartphones during a performance. By stopping the show, embarrassing his fellow actor, and spending over 2 minutes silently moping around on stage, he didn't just kill the scene. He killed the show for the entire audience due to how upset he was. Do I or anyone in front of an audience like forgetting key parts to a presentation, or forgetting where we are in a presentation, or having a technical malfunction, or any litany of issues that can occur? Of course not. But I can promise you this: if you can convince the audience it doesn't bother you, it won't bother them. Now you might understand why I harbor such a lack of respect for Matthew Broderick, a performer who should have known better. I can't forget that performance, nor can I forgive it. It's really quite simple. When you step in front of an audience, it's not how you feel, it's how you make the audience feel.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.